Yes, I do not want this figure here. Okay, so let's please give me a quick recap of what we studied, the basics of things that we studied in the last class. Mamuna, would you like to give me a recap, please, from your notes?
Yes.
Meanwhile, I
First,
arrange the figures. Yeah. Yes.
First, we studied that viviparous organisms, those are the organisms which give birth to the young ones. And next, we
Yes.
studied heterogrammatic, which is in males, it is a spermatozoa, and in females, it is oocytes.
Yes.
And then we
Also
also
called
studied,
ovum.
yeah, ovum.
Yes.
Then the average lifespan is 70 years. Then puberty in males is 13 to 15 years, and in
For whom?
females,
You have to tell for whom the average lifespan is 70 years.
average lifespan of humans.
Yes, because you talked about sperms and ovums, and I thought that, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And
Yes. Then.
yeah, then we studied gametogenesis in males. That is, it starts from from the reaching when it reaches the puberty, and females it starts before birth.
Yes.
Then we studied that when sperm and ovum gets when they come in contact, a zygote is formed, which is unicellular, and which gets converted into embryo, which is multicellular. Then fetus, infant, then puberty, which is adolescence, and then adult.
Yes.
And also spermatogenesis never stops, but oogenesis ceases at 50 years, which is called menopause. And release of oocytes from the ovaries, that is in females, begin at puberty, which is called menstruation, which lasts up to 28 days.
Yeah. So this can vary, okay? And I'll tell you in today's class, probably in today's class, we'll be focusing and we will go in details of male reproductive system only. So probably in tomorrow's class, we will discuss menstruation in detail, and I'll also give you a graph for that, where I will tell you, okay, it is actually depending from female to female. The span of menstruation may differ. Like it is not strictly 28 days for all the females. It can be 24 for some, 26 for some, 28 for some. But there are certain events on which you are asked question in entrances which are fixed. Okay. I think you should just write it here only. So it is for 28 days, but the one fixed event which is there in menstruation is called ovulation. Okay. We will discuss ovulation. Ovulation is the release of the egg. Remember the egg that you talked about, Mamuna, just about the egg cell, the oocyte?
Yeah.
So the process of its release, ovulation happens on day 14. It's more or less fixed and regulated. Now, how is it fixed that on day 14 only the ovulation will happen? Is regulated through hormones. So we'll go into details, but the extent, even if it is a 26 or 24-day cycle, still ovulation will happen on day 14. Is it clear to both Memuna, Atif, Mazia, to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So just write this one thing down and yes, continue. Yes, ma'am, please.
Then we studied the male reproductive system. In that, we studied the structure of sperm, and in that we learned that sperm is a unicellular, which is motile. And during the fusion of the sperm with the egg, the most fertile sperm reaches inside the egg so that it forms into zygote, and the
Yes.
further process will take place. And
Not the most fertile. See, fertility is a concept of organism. It is not the concept of a cell, but the most healthy and the most what do you say, competent sperm reaches the ovum. So you should use the word healthy and competent than fertile often.
Okay.
If books use the word fertile, you know that what they mean actually. But just know from a biological perspective that fertility is a concept of organism. So organism can be fertile or infertile. A sperm can either be healthy or not completely healthy, motile or less motile. But of course, a sperm is fertile. So even if I took the worst sperm, like normally that sperm was not capable of winning the race and ever going to fertilize the ovum if given a natural course. But if I take it in a needle, in a micro syringe, and I do a artificial fertilization and put it inside the ovum, that will also fertilize the egg, right?
Yes.
So you understand? So sperms are fertile. They seeds are always fertile. You understand? It's just this. It's just that how viable the seed is, how healthy the seed is, how much endosperm is there inside the seed, how old the seed is. That all these factors decide whether it will grow into a plant or not. Okay.
Okay.
So there is no infertile seed or infertile sperm. This is what I want to tell you. Okay. Yes. Continue, please.
And there are 300 to 400 million sperms per ejaculation which are released. And the structure of the sperm, there is acrosome at the top, then there is a cell which consists of sperm nucleus, then there is a neck downwards which is linked with mitochondria. There are 50 to 75, and then there is a tail which behaves like whiplash motion. And yeah, that's all.
Okay, perfect. I think clear to both Atif and Mazia also, the brief. Saifullah, welcome. How are you?
Yes, sir. Fine, sir.
Fine. You just joined in, right? Did you hear the recap from
Yes.
Namana? Okay. Any doubts? Anything?
No,
anyone wants to ask? Okay, Mazia is.
You can just say that the ovulation you were saying, right? Ovulation day 14.
Yeah, you missed this. Should I tell this again?
Yes.
Yes. So I was telling that the menstruation cycle, the menstrual cycle, I told you that normally it's for 28 days. This is what we read in the books, but it can vary from female to female depending on the health of the female, depending on different physiological factors of the female. But one thing that's more or less fixed and is regulated through hormonal signaling is the process of ovulation, the stage or the event of ovulation. Now, ovulation is the release of ovum from the ovary, and that happens on day 14 of the cycle. Regardless of the fact, even if the cycle is 28-day long, then it is exactly in the middle. 14 is in the middle of 28, correct? But even if the cycle is 24 days long, 26 days long, still it will happen on day 14, not on day 13 and day 12. It will not shift. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So there is something called pre-ovulatory phase and post-ovulatory phase in menstrual cycle. So we will understand that in detail later on. But today we'll be focusing on male system, and we'll spend the whole class on male system. Now, in the last class, we discussed things about male and female sexuality and how it evolved in biology. We also realized that male sex evolved. When it evolved in the beginning, it evolved, and people, evolutionary biologists, believe that it was just the what do you say? They were just reservoirs for the gamete, because gametes were being formed very, very early, and this is the first few organisms in which sexual reproduction is happening. So males were seen as reservoirs of gametes, and that only, right? Even, let me tell you one very crucial and beautiful fact about human embryo. In a human embryo, I told you that a female, what is the chromosomal thing of a female? Chromosomal makeup of a female? XX, right? Remember? See, this is very interesting. Yes, this will also tell you a lot of things about evolutionary biology and how sex has evolved. So XX is for female, and what is for male?
XY.
XY is for male. At one point of time, the sex is determined by XX and XY. That's true. So right from the zygotic stage, you can say that the boy or the zygote or the embryo is going to become a male or a female. We are sure of it. But we are sure of it if everything goes normally as per the laws of biology. It can still happen that things can go haywire and some biological processes get disrupted or do not happen on time. So it is encoded in our genes that we need to have 5 digits in our hand, right? 5 fingers in our hand, genetically.
Yes.
But you must also have seen people with polydactyly, 6 fingers, a new additional thumb or an additional pinky finger or an additional index finger or any finger which is additional, right? It happens, correct?
Yes.
You will also find people with fingers missing, only 4 fingers are there, or the thumb is missing. That is also an anomaly. That is called a developmental anomaly, correct? Which
Yes.
means just giving the genetic makeup is not enough. What happens after that is also important. So each signaling during the gestation period is the word used in which the baby is formed inside the mother. So the 9 months after fertilization, which we call pregnancy, is biologically called gestational period. Elephants have the longest gestational periods. You know how long it is? For humans, it is 9 months. Just I got remembered of it. So these are the question which comes in entrances. So whenever I'll remember any question, I'll tell you. You know what is the gestation period of an elephant? How long it is? 22 months, just 2 months short of 2 years. So elephant carries the baby elephant in the womb for 22 months. Very long, no?
Yes.
Does it means that elephants are the most evolved organisms or they are more complex than humans? No. Okay.
No, sir.
It does not mean that, but their gestational period is the longest, 22 months. Now, I was coming back to this. You know, so there is signaling happening at every stage, which tells that now this needs to be formed. Now this organ needs to be formed. Now this process needs to happen in that developing embryo. So for development of sexual organs also, there is a signaling that happens. And regardless of the fact whether you are a female zygote with XX or a male zygote with XY, the first thing that is formed in a zygote is a tube. And that tube, which is formed in that zygote towards the anal region. So it's a tube, it's an invagination that's formed. You know, the word invagination, it looks like it, the word for female reproductive tract, there's a word used vagina. So it's the part of the birth canal through which baby is born, correct? Yes, it comes from invagination because it's like a depression. It's like a tube which is formed in the zygote regardless of what your genetic makeup is. And somehow, if at the right timing that signaling does not occur, then even if you have XY, you will be born without male organs and with female organs. Isn't it very interesting? Yes.
Yes.
So biologists and developmental biologists always say that the baseline, so there is something we call as a default. So when you get a system or a computer or anything, there is a default setting, right? That even if you don't tweak it, your phone will have a default setting. The page will look like this, the home page will look like this. Then you change all the settings and make it non-default. So the default setting of a zygote, a human zygote, is to develop into a female. That is a default setting. The Y chromosome that is sitting there brings in some very crucial components and very crucial signaling to tell that, see, you have to make this particular zygote into a male. So even biologically, the default setting is to make a female body, is to make a tube inside. And then if you have to make it a male, that tube needs to become out of the body and develop into a penile organ or a penis. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes.
When I'll be teaching you these things, I'll also be teaching, and this is important for entrance also, I'll also be teaching you parallel organs. So the kind of tissues and organs which are present in males, actually all their default tissues or all their precursor tissues are present in females also. Females also have a counterpart for penis and all the tissues which are present in the male organs. Females also have a counterpart for other tissues that males have. Yeah? So males are nothing but a non-default setting of a female body biologically. Okay, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, so now let's first go to the male body, the male reproductive structure. So this is the diagram which I have taken from your NCERT only, where they have mentioned some parts, and we'll first go through the parts and try to understand the anatomy. So this what you're seeing here, which is not marked, is the spinal, is the spine, okay? Or we call it the vertebral column. How many bones does a vertebral column have? Again, some more things apart from reproductive system, which have been asked in entrances. So spine is vertebral column. How many bones are there total in the vertebral column, starting from the top to the bottom? Anyone knows? 33. Write it down. There are 33 vertebral bones, which together make the spine of a human. It's about human only. Written?
Yes.
This last bone here, you all can see this last bone here.
Yes.
This is called coccyx. It is the rudimentary tailbone. Do you know that a human embryo, how many of you have seen a human embryo developing in books or in pictures? A human embryo? Okay, so this is your homework for today. Write down your in-class assignment. You have to go and search on internet the embryonic pictures, right from day 1 onwards for a human, a chick, which is a chicken, human, chicken, rat, and dolphin. So one is a fish. No, dolphin is not a fish. Dolphin is also a mammal. Any fish? Shark. Shark, I think you'll find it difficult to find, but just go for human, chicken, rat, and a dolphin. Okay, very different organisms. This is what I wanted you to. One bird, one small mammal, non-primate. The other lives in water, aquatic, and other is a primate, humans. Written? Human, chick, rat, dolphin.
Yes.
Say yes or no? Yes. So go at the internet and look at their developmental stages, embryonic stages. You will see every embryo, regardless of the fact whose embryo it is, when it starts developing, it has a structure like this: a big bulge which will later on form a head, a curved spine which will later form spine, a bulge here for birds for hands, two birds for hands, two birds for legs, and a tail. With, like, if it is inside the embryo, there will be yolk here inside the egg. So for chicken there will be yolk here. For human there will be no yolk, but it will be inside a cavity. So every human, and there will be a big blob here which will form eyes later. So every embryo looks in the beginning like this. So every embryo, every chordate embryo has a tail as an embryo. Just 1 second, people. It's iftar time here. I was at my relative's place. Okay. So what was I saying? Yes, every embryo has a tail in the beginning. Now, for organisms that have tail, like rats have tail, right? Rats and mouse have tail. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So this tissue here will later go and develop into a tail. Do you understand? But for humans, it will stop developing. So there is a signaling which comes and tells that this embryo is a human embryo, and humans do not have tail. So this tail tissue needs to stop developing. So there is no tail in humans. But at one point of time, the ancestors, not of humans, human ancestors always did not have tails. You know, one thing which I very passionately do in my biology classes is to try to teach people evolution in a proper manner. So there is a very big myth in society, even in people who read biology but are not biologists, but read biology as a subject. They believe that humans have evolved from apes and monkeys. You must have seen this, right? You must have heard this thing. Charles Darwin said that humans evolved from monkeys. He never said that. There are also many memes on it that, your ancestors must be monkeys, mine are not. But he never said that. You are misinterpreting what Charles Darwin said about evolution. So evolution never says, the theory or the proofs that we have never says that we evolved from monkeys or we evolved from chimpanzees. It says that we evolved into a different branch altogether. We, chimpanzees and some very high order primates, had a common ancestor back in time when humans were not there and chimpanzees also were not there. So there was something which was common to both. It's like a branching effect. So there was a point from where two branches emerged. But when humans branch evolved, humans right from the beginning always were did not have tail. You understand? Is it clear?
Yes.
Also, this tail tissue is very interesting because recently there's a Nature Science paper that proved, the gene for tail is actually present in human genome also. The interesting thing is that has mutations because of which it became non-viable. So the gene is not functional in humans but is present in our genome. So we have a gene for tail development sitting right inside our nucleus, but it is non-functional. So the question is, what if we someday make it functional? Will our babies be born with a tail? If we can somehow, let's assume we tweak with human genomes. It is not allowed. It is unethical to tweak with human genomes. And did I tell you in this batch only that there was a scientist who got jailed for around 12 years in China who tweaked with a human genome? No. Or yes?
No, sir.
No? Okay. So you can find about that also. So there is something called gene editing technique, CRISPR. We can edit the genes. So this person removed some genes from a human embryo, and that gene was for some disease like obesity. So genes which lead to obesity, he removed those genes without knowing properly what could be the side effects. Now, you cannot just remove any gene, even if you know that this gene can later on cause cancer. We in our genome, we have a gene called BRCA. BRCA1. It's called BRCA1. The full form is breast cancer gene. BR for breast, CA for cancer. Breast cancer 1. It was first found in breast cancer patients, in females. So this gene is named as BRCA1. Now this gene, if this gene becomes haywire and somehow starts misbehaving, we can have cancer. Anyone can have cancer because this is sitting right inside our genome. But just because we know this, we cannot remove this gene from a genome, right? Because we do not know what could be the other effects of it, what other roles it is playing at different stages of life. Do you understand? Just say yes or no.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this scientists edited some genes of a baby, and those babies are born, and those babies are still alive, living. They are in their mid-20s. So this is a very old. They are teenagers. Sorry, they must be teenagers now. So this is an old thing. But when this thing came into light, and when he admitted that he did this, and see everything is fine, he thought he will get lots of accolades. But yeah, there were some people who like praised this thing. Oh, what a good piece of science done. But the majority of community, the science community, felt that this is not how science is done. You cannot just decide things on your own as a scientist and tweak with human genomes. We will be having mutants roaming around otherwise. So there are some rules and regulations, and he flouted that, so he was jailed. But there is another research recently done on chicken and rats. So they did it on rats. So they took the gene which is responsible for tail formation in a rat embryo, and they knocked that gene out, which means they cut the gene and removed it from the genome. This is possible. There are something called biological scissors with which you can knock in, knock out any gene. So he knocked out a gene. The group knocked out a gene. And now the parents, which were tailed mice, when they reproduced, and from the embryo, when you remove that gene of tail, the kids were born, the offsprings were born without tail. So tailless mice were born. Okay. But this is fine, right? This is understandable. But when these mice reproduced and a new progeny was formed, if this gene was not present or not passed on to the next generation again, without any editing, there are tailless mouse born because the gene is absent from both the parents. Do you understand? So clearly no parent could have given that gene. But the moment you outcross the parent, outcrossing is like a tailless mother with a normal father, you cross that, you will find some offsprings again with tail. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, this is where organism already had tails. Now, their thing is they want to take it further in evolution. So if someone had something, you remove a gene, obviously that thing will get removed. This is one way to prove that the gene is important for this structure. But it does not prove that if an organism like human who does not have tail, if I put that gene back into the genome, the organism will grow tail. This is not proved from this experiment. Only one way is proved, the other way is still unproved. And for this, they cannot do experiments on human embryos. But you know which organism they can go to prove this? Tell me. Which is the most closest to human and does not have a tail?
Chimpanzees.
I was asking which organism is closest to human and does not have a tail. Is it clear the question, Atif? Organism closest to human? Chimpanzee. So if I can achieve, or if scientists can achieve this, that by knocking in that gene in a chimpanzee's genome, there is the only one kind of a chimpanzee produced in the world, born in the world with a tail. Does it tell a lot about biology? Yes. Can it give answers for the other way also, if it is possible? Right. So we have to do that. That part is yet missing. So this is what their future perspectives are, that you would like to do it in higher order primates, which do not have tails, to link it to humans. Anyways, but I was talking about this coccyx. This is a rudimentary tail bone. Okay. And it is asked in entrance. Now let's come to the reproductive part. So let me move this diagram. It's not important anymore. Now, in a in a male reproductive tract, the most important thing that you have to know is there is something called primary sexual organs, which are without which reproduction cannot happen. And then there are something called accessory organs, which help, just like in plants. Remember, in plants, I told you that petals and sepals are important, but not essential. Without them also, plant reproduction can happen. So the most important structures are stamen and carpel. Remember? Say yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Similarly, in male structures, the main primary reproductive organ is testis. Singular for testis and testes are plural, TES. Okay. So write down. So let me first explain the structure. So we have humans, males have testes, which is the primary reproductive organ, which produces sperms. So this is where spermatogenesis takes place. Now there are many questions that come around testes as an organ and a structure. You know, testes is a dual organ, so spermatogenesis happens here. In class 11th, did someone tell you that testis is a dual organ? It is both a reproductive organ and an endocrine gland. Remember, hormones are secreted from testis. Yes, Atif? Yes. Can you tell me which hormones are secreted from testis?
Testosterone.
Perfect. So testes is also an endocrine gland. It's a dual organ. So write it down here. It's a dual organ. And it produces hormones like testosterone. Not like, it produces testosterone. Testosterone. Okay. So we have to study about spermatogenesis and testosterone together in this chapter with respect to testis. Now, another point is, where does let's take it parallelly. Where does ovum or oocyte produced in females? I already told you, which is the structure? Ovary. The name is ovary, right? And ovary is very much inside the abdominal cavity of a female. It is inside the body. But testes are outside the body, like outside the body cavity, not like outside the body. There cannot be wireless testes, but they are in a cavity which is called scrotum. It is a sac. It is a sac, muscular sac, which actually keeps the testes away from the actual abdomen or actual body cavity. You know why it does that? Why is testes evolved like that?
Can you repeat?
Why is testes present or located outside the abdominal wall, abdominal cavity, in a bag-like structure called scrotum? This is a question.
Sir, it can only produce sperms if the testes are at a temperature lower than the body temperature.
It cannot produce sperms if it is at the temperature of a body temperature. It has to be lower than the body temperature. Okay.
Yes, sir, that's what I said.
Okay, you said this. I thought you said that it cannot produce sperms if it is at a lower temperature. It can only produce sperms if it is at lower temperature. So it always needs to be at a lower temperature than the body temperature, which is 37 degrees Celsius. So it has to be a couple of degrees less than that to produce sperms. So first reason is that. Now, evolutionarily, why I started the class by talking about that male reproductive system is a non-default state of a female system, because where is ovary? Inside the body, correct?
Yes, sir.
It always stays inside the body, and ovums can be produced inside the body because, and even before birth. So when testes were forming in a human embryo, male embryo, they also must have been formed inside the body, correct? Then
Yes, sir.
Then they come out. This is exactly what happens. Testes are formed or produced very much inside the abdomen at around the same region near the kidneys. So write down about testes. Testes are produced during the embryonic stage. This is entrance question. Testis is produced. I think they have not talked about this in your NCERT. I was looking at NCERT yesterday. They do not talk about cryptokidism, do they? No. But it's important. It's a reproductive default. So testes are produced during embryonic development near the kidneys. And we all know kidneys are inside the abdominal cavity. Then, just before the birth, and sometimes even after the birth, normally just before the birth or during the birth, or slightly after the birth, they descend down. They descend down into the scrotum. They descend down into the scrotum. They descend down into the scrotum. If they fail to do so, and it happens, it's rare, it's not very common, but it happens in male birth, in male childs. Sometimes a male child is born without the testes descended down into the scrotum. It stays in the abdominal cavity. Now, it will not have any harmful effect on the person's life or health. It will have effects later on its puberty, the growth as a male characters, secondary characters, and also on sperm formation, correct? But it's not fatal. The baby will still live. And in that case, what people do is, so first write down, if it fails to descend, the disorder is known as cryptokidism. Should I write it here? Let me write it here. Cryptokidism. CHIDISM. Cryptokidism. Is it clear, all of you?
Yes, sir.
So a cryptokidic child can be treated just after the birth. So you do not need to do a very emergency based surgery, because you know that the child can still live, no problem with that. But when the child is 5, 6, 7 years old, what we can do is we can do a surgery to bring down or to put down that those testes back to the scrotal sac. Is it clear? So that is done surgically. So the question is, if we do not do that, then what will be the effect? What do you think will be the effect on a male's life? Explain. It was not asked in CBSE, but I have seen it as a question in some high order like books where they ask you questions. If someone wants to make a high order thinking skill question, this would be one. So write down, what could be the side effects of cryptokidism? Simply, this is the question. Can you tell me? What do you think will happen? Nothing will happen till puberty. Everything will go normal, correct? Yes or no? You agree?
Yes.
Because till puberty, there is no role of testes, major role of testes happening. Testosterone is not required to that extent. Everything is happening normally, but puberty will not hit, because testosterone, the production of testosterone might still happen, but spermatogenesis will be lagged. And even testosterone will not be formed in good amount. So the male characters will always be less, or what we call it, a little, what is a good word for it? But you understood, okay? Diminished. Yes, the male characters will be diminished. The voice will not be as coarse as it should have been at that age. The protrusion of the Adam's apple will not happen, on all the things. We will study about those also. So you understood about testes. Now this testis is attached. So from the testes, when the sperms are formed, look here at the diagram. So we'll be discussing the diagram for the next 10-15 minutes to understand the process. So this is where sperms are formed. Let me make one. So let's say this is where sperms are formed. So they first have to come out of the testis, and this structure right here, I think it's not marked, is called epididymis. You see, there is this red part is the testis, and there is something sitting on the top of it like a comma, right? Do you see this, or a skull cap?
Yes, sir.
This is called epi. The word epi means
Outer.
over. Epididymis. This is a structure. So the sperm from the testes enters into the epididymis, and epididymis, just when you are writing epididymis, write in the bracket, maturation of sperm happens in epididymis. So this is the sperm maturating factory. Sperm maturation. Okay. When a sperm is formed in the testes, it is very, very incapable of moving because the tail is not developed properly. It is also incapable of surviving the other structures which help and give sperms the health, the motility are not formed properly. So it is called an immature spermatozoa, which is formed from testes. We'll come into the details of it. Then it goes into epididymis, where it gets maturation. It gets a good tail, it gets motility, it gets healthy movement, and from it, it enters into this tube called vas deferens. This one here. So you see this tube coming out of the testes, right? This is called vas deferens. Now vas deferens goes and meets the seminal vesicle. See this? There is a structure called seminal vesicle. You see here? Now seminal vesicle produces that fluid which we normally know, which we know as semen. Should I, can I just erase these two things? If you have written this, I need some space here.
Yes.
People? Yes? BRC and cryptokidism. So in vas deferens, the sperms are stored after puberty. They stay stored here for some time. And that also has a limit because newer sperms are constantly being made. Now, this is one thing that you need to know. Human males, after they hit puberty, till they die normally, they keep forming gametes constantly throughout their life. Okay, is it clear? Yes or no?
Yes.
Now, a very basic question is, if you keep forming sperms but you're not using it, then what are you doing with it? Because a man, a boy or a male can reach puberty at 13, but yet not get married to or need to do sexual reproduction till 10 years, 20, 15 years down the line. So what that male is doing with all that sperm production in all these years? Can you think of a good alternative way? Because these are very, very energy taking, and also they have a lot of nutrition. Sperms have a lot of fructose filled in it. Okay, one more entrance question. Just write it here. In class 11th, you must have studied that all our cells of the body rely on glucose for their energy production, correct? They utilize glucose. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Right about sperms. Sperms utilize fructose. Sperms utilize fructose. I think technology has, sometimes it makes life difficult. So whenever I say something like utilize fructose, Google gets activated all of a sudden in my phone and says, for that, you need a mobile connection. I'm like, okay, I'm not asking you. It's fine. Same thing Siri does. So sperm is a very, very important cell in that regard because it can utilize fructose for its energy production. Now, can anyone tell me what is the advantage of sperm being able to utilize fructose and not relying on glucose? Is there any benefit?
The fructose is like a saccharide of glucose, right?
Fructose is an isomer of glucose, not a saccharide. You mean polysaccharide? Saccharides are just a name given for like carbohydrates. So glucose and fructose both are monomers, but isomer of each other. Remember in class 11th, when you studied glycolysis, glucose 6, it's something like glucose 6 kinase gets converted into fructose 6 kinase at one stage, the second or the third step of glycolysis, where the glucose derivative converts into fructose derivative, and the enzyme which is used is called a isomerase. It's called fructokinase isomerase. So it isomerizes the molecular structure. That's it. But is there any advantage? Can you think of? Okay, if you cannot think of, write it as a homework. It's an important question, people. It also has come in boards, in CBSE board. So write down. Question. Is there any advantage of sperms being able to utilize fructose and not glucose for their energy? Written the question?
So can you repeat it once?
Is there any advantage of sperms being able to utilize fructose and not glucose for their energy? Done? We gave you this as a homework. Tell me done or not. Written
Yes,
the
sir.
question? Yes. Now, did you all do your homework which I gave in the last class? Read meiosis and its stages in detail. Please say yes or no honestly. If you do not, then I can still go through a different way, and you can do it tomorrow. But before we go into spermatogenesis, you need to have done this. Have you studied meiosis, people, and the stages in detail? Yes or no? Namuna, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Atif? Saifullah? No? Okay. Saifullah? Mazia? Saifullah? Did you do this?
Only
Yes?
a bit.
Not in detail.
Yes, sir.
So it's no. Mazia? You can write it to me. Even if there is one no, so I'll not take spermatogenesis today. We'll do it tomorrow. Then Mazia has also not done it. Please do it today so that tomorrow we can reach there. So today we will learn about other things. Okay, let's come back. So till the time it is stored, what is it? T. क्या है ये? हाँ, give it. Thank you so much. चलेगा. Okay. Sorry, baby. So till the time it is in this vas deferens, it stays stored for around a month. Okay, it can stay there for a month, but after a month, all these millions and millions of sperms which are stored in vas deferens, if they are not utilized, then the walls of this vas deferens starts digesting and absorbing the sperms back, because you cannot afford to waste a lot of it, because it is very high energy. It's nutritional stuff in your body. So you can again break it down, absorb it, and use the same thing to make new sperms, right? But that rate of digesting the sperms in the body itself and absorbing it is not as fast as the rate for release and storage in the vas deferens is. So there is one more thing which is asked in entrance in boards. There's a term called nightfall. It is a involuntary ejaculation which happens in sleep for a lot of males who reach puberty. So there are a lot of processes that often both the genders get scared of when changes starts happening. So there needs to be a proper education in a manner which is known as the gender education or the sex education, which makes them aware of what changes are happening to their body, and there is no need to be afraid of it or no need to be ashamed of it. You just need to embrace it, realize it, and mitigate it, make necessary requirements. Okay, so just like menstruation, when it starts, a lot of females, these women, they start getting scared and afraid. Obviously if you start losing blood out of your body, anyone will get scared. Similarly, when these gametes cannot stay in the vas deferens, they are thrown out if they are above the axis in sleep through an involuntary action, which is called a nightfall. So write down. This is a question. What is a nightfall? So it is an involuntary subconscious ejaculation of excess sperms post puberty, mostly in sleep.
Sir, can you repeat?
Yes. This is someone has written the first parts, the first bits. It is, I remember, it is the involuntary ejaculation, involuntary subconscious ejaculation of excess sperms or spermatozoa or male gametes, mostly post puberty, mostly in sleep. Post puberty, mostly in sleep in a male. Of course, it will be in a male only, so no need to write that. Is it clear? Now, let me tell you one very, very important thing. It's also interesting from those who do not strictly wants to become a doctor and go into research or biotechnology or things like that. How many of you know that the similar kind of mechanisms are tapped when you are actually very, very nervous or scared, which can also trigger ejaculation. So in men, in young men who have still reached their puberty, who are like in their teenagers, sometimes when they get very, very anxious or nervous or are not afraid or scared, but like in a hurry, suppose like there are just 1 or 2 minutes left in an examination and you have a lot to still write and you are scared that you might fail and you are also anxious and nervous and in a hurry. So a lot of mixed emotions can tap to a signaling that can again start the nightfall, not in night. So it is happening in a conscious state, but it's happening because all your systems are mixing up. Do you understand? Only after puberty, the sorting of emotions takes place. You all must have seen a kid, a baby, when it cries, it cries because it's feeling something bad or pain, but the emotion of upsetness does not hold for very long in a kid. Have you seen it? You will see kids falling down and crying, and then within seconds, they are happy and laughing. Have you observed this or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, but it takes a while for an adult to switch from one emotion to another. Yes or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. So that's why, because all the sorting is happening post puberty mostly, and nightfall can also be triggered as a response to anxiousness and hurry and something which is putting you under stress in puberty. So if someone, your younger brother, sister, or cousin, sorry, not sisters, younger brothers or cousins, come to you discussing these things, be open to them, be helping to them, and tell them nothing to worry about. This is just biology happening inside you, and everything will be fine, and you are growing up. Okay? Will you do that?
Yes.
Students of biology? Very good. Let's move forward. So it's stored in vas deferens, then it can be thrown out or can be degraded and taken back. The seminal vesicle, right here about seminal vesicle, just few points. We will go into detail, don't worry. Just write some most important points. It produces the bulk of the semen. So semen is released from different glands plus the sperms. Okay. So seminal vesicles are named that because they produce the bulk of the semen. And what is semen? Write down. Semen. It's the fluid. It's the fluid release, or you can write it's a complex fluid released from male reproductive tract. It's a complex fluid released from male reproductive tract. And mostly contains water, spermatozoa, plasma. It's a fluid like the cell plasma, and mucus. Mucus is a lubricating substance. Mucus is present in a lot of organs of a human body because a human body cannot afford to become dry, because once anything internally, so externally our skin is dry, it can be dry and you can still survive, but if internally things starts becoming dry, then it will be difficult for that organ to survive. So our body cavity, the moment, if someone of you wants to become a surgeon, anyone wants to become a surgeon? Anyone who wishes to become a surgeon in life, wants to open bodies and heal and fix things? No one? Okay. If anyone, but if what surgeons do is when you open the body and you look at an open human body, all the layers inside the skin of human body are lined with are wet actually and slimy. Not just wet, they are slimy. So they have to be covered with protecting hydrating thing, which is mucus. From our nasal cavity to our buccal cavity to the ear, the internal ear, and the throat, everything, even the eyes, everything has to be lubricated all the time. So semen also contains mucus, a lubricating agent. Written? Everyone is written? Is it done? People, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Next point, write down. Semen also contains low amounts of calories. Low amounts of calories. Yes. This the point that I'm just saying right now, or what I said before. This one.
What you're saying right now, sir.
Yes. Semen also contains some calories and small amount of essential nutrients. Semen also contains some calories and small amounts of essential nutrients like calcium. Okay, this is an entrance question. Which of the following macronutrient is a part of semen? That is calcium. So calcium is the most abundant nutrient which is present in semen. Is it clear, people? You can make a star mark.
Yes.
Yes. Cool. Now, so seminal vesicles, this vas deferens meets the seminal vesicle at a point. Okay. And this point where they meet actually, this point actually has this one organ. Do you see this red organ which is marked as prostate? It's a gland. Prostate is a small but a very significant gland in the male reproductive system, and also very, very prone for cancers. Prostate cancer so in males, the most frequent or prevalent form of cancer is prostate cancer. In females, it is breast cancer. And overall in humans, it is blood cancer. Okay, just for you to know. So prostate cancer is very prevalent in males. So prostate gland is at the junction where the vas deferens seminal vesicles meet with the urinary bladder. So urinary tract also comes and meet here. So do you see this diagram here at a point where I have put this blue line, everyone? At this junction, the urinary bladder's urethra. So what comes out of urinary bladder? You all must have read excretory system in class 11th, right? So you know from the urinary bladder comes out the urethra, right? So this thing carrying urine and this tube carrying sperms meets at this junction where the prostate gland is present, and this is the point from where only one thing at a time can pass. So the fascinating control of a male reproductive system is that the urinary tract and the sperm duct is common. Do you understand, everyone? After a point,
Yes.
there is a common passage both for the urine and the sperms to pass. Now, semen is alkaline in nature. What do we mean by alkaline?
pH is above 7.
pH is more than 7, right? So that's alkaline. And urine is acidic, ranging from slightly acidic to highly acidic. depending on what is your hydration state. So you also must have observed that when you are low on water, urine turns pale yellow to dark yellow, correct? And we are very, very hydrated and very good on water in our body, then the urine is whitish or like transparent, like water, correct? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. So that also tells you about the acidity level of the urine. Now, urine is very acidic. pH is semen is alkaline, which means sperms can live in alkaline environment and they cannot live in an acidic environment. So write down, sperms cannot survive in acidic environment. Sperms cannot survive in acidic environment. Okay. But if this is the case, then we have a problem in biology. And let's discuss how biology has solved it. So the problem is that if there is only one way to go for both the things, one is alkaline and one is acidic, and one is a life process, like it's excretion, and we have to excrete multiple times a day through our kidneys. So urine has to pass multiple times through that same route in a day, correct? So normally and technically, this whole route almost every time is more acidic, correct? It is acidic,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Because urine is passing frequently and this whole tract is acidic. So if sperms, which is with semen, which is alkaline, starts using the same tract, then before they reach the female tract and do what they are supposed to do in biology, they will just get killed in male's own tract, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So what is the way out?
So there's like millions of sperms, so some of them will go through.
So you want to let it die, right? But see, when biology is evolving, it's like, yes, you're right, there are millions of sperm, and even if we do not care about the tract, there'll be few reaching. But you are forgetting one thing: the female reproductive tract is also very hostile to the sperms. And if you want to test their biology and their evolution and their fitness, you would not like them to die in male organ only. So if there are millions, and out of them, let's say even like 10% are dying in male tract, then you are just left with 90 to die in the female tract, and that 10 could have made all the difference. So you want them to be tested in the female tract, not in the male tract, because male tract can control its own ways. So there's no logic to test sperms in the male tract itself. So, that's why we have different glands, like the seminal gland, this prostate gland, and these bulbourethral glands lined up all at different places in this male tract. Because before the urge, so urination, when the urge for urination starts, I did not taught you this in last class, but you must have learned that micturition, the release of urine is called micturition, right? Just like ejaculation, there's a term for release of urine. It's called micturition. Yes.
Yes.
Now this urge is voluntary to some extent. Like it's not like 5 seconds before you felt like you want to go to urinate and then you cannot control. Even like behaviorally and socially, females are accustomed and behaviorally adapted to hold micturition for hours, because this is because of they do not find, especially in countries like which are still developing, like India and the rural parts of India, females do not find hygienic toilets everywhere, so they just cannot just urinate anywhere. So behaviorally they are also told and advised and they practice to hold micturition for a very long time, which is not good for their physiology in older ages, but they do it, which also tells that it can be done. You can train your excretory urinary system to hold micturition, correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
But after one point of time, it becomes involuntary. When you are so much under the stress to urinate and the bladder is full, after that, the body does not listen to you. And then it becomes involuntary and the sphincters open on their own and you urinate. The micturition happens. But it has a long time frame. For ejaculation, it's like there is a limit till which males know if they are in that copulatory phase, if they are under the process of which we call as sexual intercourse, about which we'll study later. After one point of time, ejaculation cannot be controlled, not even for a microsecond. So it has a very short control. Is it clear? Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
But the preparation or the release already starts telling the male system that the sperm can start releasing at any point of time now. So you better make the way ready. So just before ejaculation happens, all these glands together start secreting some fluid which is called pre-ejaculatory fluid. It is semen minus sperms, but sometimes it can contain sperm. So it's not like foolproof, but it does not have millions of sperms in it, but it can contain a few sperms. But it is mostly containing mucus and this alkaline semen, which lines this whole tract just before ejaculation happens. And once you have lined this, then the body closes the urinary sphincters. And even if a person is under the urge of urinating and urinating very, very badly, it cannot urinate and ejaculate at the same time. This is the rigid control of the biological control on a reproductive tract of a male. Isn't it magnificent? Like, you have taken care of everything so vividly, nothing can be bribed. And of course, it can undergo some disorders or diseases or problems. That's a different thing, or infections, because of which now this control is lost. But this control is established in the first place is a beautiful thing, no? As a biologist, to learn this. So because you have invested making the tract alkaline now, you will not allow urine to pass through it at any cost till ejaculation has happened. Is it clear, people? Now, why I told you
Yes.
this? Because the question is, which urge is dominant, the urge of micturition or the urge of ejaculation? Which is dominant? Both are equally dominant.
Ejaculation.
Micturition, ejaculation. Write it down. The urge of ejaculation is dominant over micturition. But the good thing is, ejaculation does not happen multiple times in a day throughout the life. It only happens under circumstances when a male is ready to copulate. So that's why it does not affect the normal biology. You cannot see, biology is very intelligent. Why I say so? Because you cannot keep two strong things at conflict all the time, right? Strong and equally prevalent. Hello, am I audible?
Now it's fine.
It's fine. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I was saying biology is intelligent because it does not keep two things which are equally strong and dominant and prevalent at the same time, at conflict. So if one thing is dominant, then it has to be less prevalent. Obviously, if ejaculation is going to dominate micturition all the time, then ejaculation has to happen naturally less, correct? And this is what happens, correct? That's why the system is developed like that. And you invest a lot of energy in the process of ejaculation, in making sperms, in making semen, in lubricating the whole tract, and then ejaculating it. You would not like it to all go waste because of micturition. Is it clear, people?
Yes.
Perfect. So finally, through this urethra, see here, this is the urethra, which we call as the common tract for both sperms and urine, comes out through this structure, which is the penile structures or the penis. About this, we will study, because this structure is called, it's not the primary, but write it down here. Penis is the accessory organ. It's also called secondary in some books, or it is called accessory male reproductive organ. So
आप बैठे रहिए आराम से। नहीं उधर नहीं साइड में क्या चीज है सर? एक मिनट।
Okay, is it clear?
Yes.
Hello. Just a moment. Sorry. Okay, so what I was telling is, yes, penis is also considered as secondary or accessory male reproductive organ. Is it clear? Now, why it is accessory is because it is difficult to understand that without this structure, males can copulate or reproduce, right? It's important, it seems like. But I just told you that in vitro fertilization is a thing, correct? The most important thing, the most important event in reproduction is fertilization of a male and a female gamete. And that can also be done outside the body in a test tube or in a petri dish, which we call as a test tube. Have you heard of this term, test tube baby? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So do you think babies are developed in test tubes? You see a test tube and inside a test tube babies are developed. No, we call them test tube babies because the fertilization took place outside the body, and whenever a fertilization is outside, it is called IVF. Full form is in vitro fertilization. Write it down. Actually, the short form for even the fertilization which happens inside the body is also IVF, but that we call as in vivo. So there are three things: in vivo, in vitro, in silico. I think you should know this. It's also important for chemistry. I'm writing it here, okay? Can you all see it? Write it in your terminology section if you want, because it always stays the same. Whenever the word vivo comes, in vivo means inside body. Is it clear? Any physiological function which is happening inside the body is called in vivo. Say yes or no?
Yes.
If it is in vitro, it's inside something, but it's outside the body, but inside flask. I'm using the word flask or a beaker or any
Can you say container?
Yes, anything, any chemical, any place where you can do chemical reaction. For example, all your chemical reactions that you do in your chemistry lab are in vitro reactions because you do it in a beaker. Is it clear? Outside body, but inside some container. Then there is in silico. In silico is through computers or softwares. Like inside in the digital world. Like this analysis is in silico. If I say that this analysis is done in silico, it means it is done on some software in a computer or something like that. Is it clear? Most of the time, simulations are done in silico. You know what is a simulation? Simulation, people?
Yes,
Have
sir.
you heard of this word? What is simulation? Please tell me. Yes, Atif. Ma'am, who was it? Saifullah. Atif. Yes.
It's like a digital recreation of something.
Yes, a virtual reality. You create a virtual reality simulating some factors in the real world. For example, there is a simulation for the ozone layer depletion, which tells that 60 years down the line what will be the condition of the ozone layer. So we put certain factors, we train the system, we make an artificial intelligent system which simulates the environment and tells that it will increase, decrease, it will give rise to these problems and that problem. Is it okay?
Yes.
Similarly, there are many simulations for like when people start learning to become pilots, they learn everything through simulations to fly a plane. You cannot give a pilot a plane to fly, and if he fails, then the pilot is dead. No, So you teach everything in a simulation. Same goes for spacecraft. So manned mission, the moon missions which were sent to moon, all the things were, all training happened in simulations. Is it clear, people? Everything? So that is in silico. Should I move forward? I'm not dictating you things for your CBSE boards right now. I'm just telling you the process. So I hope you are understanding. I'll dictate you the next class. That's not a problem. But you all are understanding things. Is there any doubt or any problem? Please say yes or no.
No, sir.
Okay. Now this structure, the penis, is very interesting as a structure in its own, and a lot of questions in entrances I've seen on this because it has two different kinds of tissues in it. Okay. And those two different kinds of tissues have two different roles to play. Now about that we will study in detail later, but just know that okay, let's leave it right here. Now come to this diagram. This is just what I showed you already. It's from a frontal section, I think. Yes, where you can see that. And here they have made these two things. So can you see this one tissue which is a little pinkish here, and this other tissue which is slightly lighter in color? Do you see this?
Yes, sir.
Which they have written as glans penis, glans word. So there are two types of tissues called spongiosum and corosum. Okay, these two tissues we will study about separately later. But look at the structure. So right from the center is the urethra. Okay, and it meets here at bulbourethral gland. So if you have to actually make the urethra alkaline, you can just do it by the bulbourethral gland secretion. And this is the gland which forms pre-ejaculatory secretion. And then as you go up, you have prostate, another gland, then seminal vesicles, another gland, lined one on the top of other. And then comes the vas deferens. And here is your, it's shown this side, vas deferens, and then your epididymis. So vas deferens becomes coiled and reaches the epididymis. From the epididymis, it goes into vasa efferentia, then inside into rete testis, and then into testicular lobules. So this figure, you all have NCERT? If you have NCERT, this job will be a little easier. Everyone has NCERT?
Yes.
Yes, so mark as from inside out, testicular lobules is the first thing. This is where sperms are produced. Then rete testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis, vas deferens. Sorry. Mark it like this, because this is the series in which we will study spermatogenesis. Okay. So is the discussion clear to you? Should I move forward and start giving you dictations for things that you need to write in boards? Have you marked it in your book?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So let's move forward. Write down.
Sir, time is over.
Oh, it's yes. I was thinking it's still 8:30. Okay. So we'll finish this in the next class and also begin with the female tract. So I'll take 1 hour more to finish this, and then we'll start with female tract in the next class. Any doubts, people? Anything you want to ask me regarding? Because see, when we are studying biology, a lot of things that are happening around you, with people you know, or any disease that you are aware of that you want to discuss about, everything can come in an entrance. So please stay vocal, be discussive about those things in the class. Okay, that's why we put efforts and discussions here. Okay, so if you have no doubt, we'll meet tomorrow in the next class. And please, just as a reminder, I'm telling you, read meiosis and its stages in detail. Will you do that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then see you in the next class.